Hi, I'm Matt with Prima Coffee. I'm going to show you how to set up a GS3 to plumb it into the wall. The great thing about the GS3 is you can use it with a reservoir or plumbed in, and today I'm going to show you how to plumb it in. First of all, with the machine off, remove the drain box like this, set that aside, pull out the reservoir, and remove this line right here. We use a pair of pliers, grab the clamp, squeeze it so it's loose, and then gently wiggle the clamp onto the line. And now we can release the line just like that. Now we'll set that aside. In the plumbed-in use, you don't need the reservoir at all. Next, we're going to open up this side panel. First, unscrew these caps. And then we're going to use a 13mm wrench and take these nuts off. Alright, remove the second one, and panel slides off like this. Set this aside. Now we've opened up the pump. At this point, find the same hose that went to the reservoir right here, and we're going to take this fitting off here. Just like that. Be very gentle with these copper pipes and brass fittings because they do bend, especially when you go to tighten them up. You can tighten them too far and bend them out of shape. So now we've got that free, we can pull this line out, set that aside. You won't need any of these parts, the reservoir or the water line now. A braided hose is included with your espresso machine, so go ahead and find that now. Feed it up through the bottom, that same hole that the other line was in, and tuck it in just like this, and then tighten it. Make sure you don't get any kinks. In this line, you want this to be tucked right like that, so you get a nice easy curve and we don't restrict our water flow. Snug that up again, not too much, just a little past snug, like that. And then the other end is a 3/8 inch compression fitting. You can just have a plumber set that up in your home. I would suggest putting an on-off valve before your compression fitting. I'll set this aside now. Next thing we have to do is get our drain set up. The drain box comes from the manufacturer with a plug in it. You need to remove that plug with a flathead screwdriver. We'll not need this plug anymore. And then find the drain hose, also included with your machine, and the barbed fitting. We'll press those together. And we'll use a 7mm nut driver or a flathead screwdriver to tighten up the pipe clamp. Get that nice and snug. And then, as I've done here, put a 2 or 3 wraps of Teflon pipe thread tape on there. And then thread the whole thing into the box. You don't want to over tighten it at this point because you can damage the plastic drain box. We'll make it snug with a wrench, but be careful. Okay. Now that's all set. You'll want a hole in your countertop that you can feed the drain line into. And then into a plumb drain in your home. Box goes back in just like it came out. You don't use the reservoir at all anymore because you need space for the drain line inside. Okay. The one last thing that we have to do is set up the computer program to recognize that there's no longer a reservoir. Under reservoir use, the whole machine will shut off when the reservoir is empty. So we have to set it up so that the machine realizes there's no reservoir, but there is still line pressure coming from the main water supply. So with the main power switch on in the back of the machine, but with the display panel off, we're going to enter the display panel off programming mode. So the display panel is off. I'm going to hold this button for about 5 seconds. Okay, and then we'll continue to use this button to cycle through the options. Language, name, heating options, tank present. It's currently set up so that it is going to try to recognize a reservoir tank. We will use one of these buttons, here or here, to switch it to tank not present. This is in plumbed-in mode when there will be no reservoir. So we will just cycle back through. Back to the regular off setting. Now we're ready to hook up our water lines, set up our drain line, turn the water on, fill up the machine, and make some espresso. Thanks for watching.
Rolling on sound, rolling on video.
Okay. Hi, I'm Matt with Prima Coffee. Today I'm going to show you how to set up a GS... Let's start over.
Cool, yeah, just go.
Hi, I'm Matt with Prima Coffee. I'm going to show you how to set up a La Marzocco GS3 so that it's plumbed in and no longer using the reservoir the way it comes from the factory. So with the machine off, start by taking the drain box out. Like this. Set that aside for now. Pull the reservoir out. We're going to take a pair of pliers and squeeze this clamp, move it back onto the line, and then this line's a little bit snug. Pull it out like that. Set the reservoir aside. You won't need the reservoir anymore. Now we're going to come over here to the side panel and take these covers off, exposing the nuts. We'll use a 13mm wrench. Let's back these off and remove that panel. There's one. There's the second. Take that panel off and set it aside. Now we've opened up the pump here. If you find the same line that you took off the reservoir, you can follow it back inside to where it connects to the pump, inside the espresso machine. We're going to take this fitting off and free this line. Be careful as you do this, because this copper is soft, as is the brass fitting. Okay, that's off. Pull that out. Set this aside also. We won't need that anymore. Included with your espresso machine, you should have a stainless steel braided line like this. We're going to set this up now. From the front of the machine, feed it into the hole, just like the other line was. And then onto the pump, just like before. We'll make this snug, but not overly tight. We don't want to damage that fitting. And about like that. Tuck this line in where it flows naturally. We don't want to restrict the water flow in the line, so no kinks or anything like that. That looks good. I'll have to have a plumber set up your home for a 3/8 inch compression fitting.
Go from, this is a 3/8 inch.
Okay. This is a 3/8 inch compression fitting. You'll have to have a plumber set up a 3/8 inch male end, and I recommend putting a valve on the other side of the male end that this will fit into. That way you can shut it on and off easily. You'll also need a drain line. Let's talk about the drain now. Get the drain box out, and the machine comes from the manufacturer set up so that you can use a reservoir without having to plumb it in. So we'll need to remove this plug with a flathead screwdriver in the back of the drain box, just like this. We'll not need this anymore, so we'll set it with the reservoir. And then locate the drain line and the barbed fitting. This connects the box to the drain line. We'll put this on first. As you see, I've put a couple of wraps of Teflon tape on there. Go ahead and do that too. That'll prevent leakage. We'll snug this in, but just gently. If you over tighten it, you can damage the plastic box. That's good. Now find your pipe clamp, slip that on the hose, and then work it down over the barbed fitting. and then tighten up the clamp with a 7mm nut driver or a flathead screwdriver. Okay, that's nice and snug. Set that aside. Now we'll go ahead and install the box. You'll need a hole in your countertop to fit your drain line into. It's like this. Because of where the drain line goes, and the water line really, you won't be able to store the reservoir under there anymore. It'll have to go somewhere else. Okay. Now the last thing you have to do is set up the computer so that it no longer recognizes the reservoir. As it comes from the factory, the whole machine is set to shut off when the reservoir is empty. Now that we have it plumbed into the wall, we don't have a reservoir, and the machine will not work yet because it doesn't recognize that reservoir. So with the main power on, but with the display off, like this, we're going to hold this button for about 5 seconds. This is the power off programming mode. We use the same button to cycle through the options till we come to stop. Okay.
Wait till they stop.
I'll just go back to the beginning. And you want to wait just a minute and hope that they... Okay. So we'll press this button for about 5 seconds. Alright, now we'll use the same button to cycle through our options. Tank present. Let's switch this to tank not present by pressing this button here. Tank not present. Now it's set up for plumbed-in mode. We'll continue to press this button to get out of the programming mode. Now we're ready to plumb our machine in, set up the drain line, go ahead and fill the tank with water, turn it on, and make some espresso. This has been how to set up a GS3 for plumbed-in use. Thanks for watching.